Hello again. Well, I am not garbed like a professor today because today I'm rooting for my home team, my old home team. My sister sent me this shirt. But I've got a Dawn Post called Cultivate Your Garden, Clean Up Your Mess. Cultivate Your Garden, of course, Voltaire's famous bit of advice in Candide to any who would merely complain about things and not do anything about them. And so I posted this quite early this morning and in a degree of pain at the time. I just spilled hot coffee all over my hand and wrist and the kitchen. Maybe I should consider a different method than pour and drip at 5 a.m., but I was up and woke. Was finally able to sit down and watch a televised baseball game with real interest yesterday. After class, Cards Padres, postseason. Wasn't much of a season. Never mind for now the sea of empty seats in that stadium, in all the stadia where all the postseason baseball is occurring now. My focus was instead on those green fields, the ones in San Diego and in my imagination. I've missed them badly since March, when David Price took the mound for LA in Arizona just before COVID canceled the Cactus League and snipped the season. It feels good to care about something so inconsequential as a game in the sun. That's what Roger Angell said too, that the caring is why we should let games that don't really matter to us. He wrote, "It is foolish and childish, on the face of it, to affiliate ourselves with anything so insignificant and patently contrived and commercially exploitative as a professional sports team, and the amused superiority and icy scorn that the non-fan directs at the sports fan, I know this look, I know it by heart, is understandable and almost unanswerable. Almost. What is left out of this calculation, it seems to me, is the business of caring. Caring deeply and passionately, really caring, which is a capacity or an emotion that's almost gone out of our lives. And so it seems possible that we have come to a time when it no longer matters so much what the caring is about, how frail or foolish is the object of that concern, as long as the feeling itself can be saved. Naivete, the infantile and ignoble joy that sends a grown man or woman screaming and dancing into the streets in the middle of the night over the haphazardous flight of a distant ball, seems a small price to pay for such a gift. That was in Angell's book, 5 Seasons. Angell's a centenarian. We should pay attention to what he says. He's also a Hall of Famer. So much that we care about in the world feels so fraught and frightening. We need a break. Is that why people play video games? To each their own. For me, Bart Giamatti has the best words and the best game. Baseball fosters in me again the illusion that there was something abiding, some pattern and some impulse that could come together to make a reality that would resist the corrosion of time and disappointment. And because after it had fostered again that most hungered for illusion, the game was meant to stop and betray precisely what it promised. Of course, there are those who learn after the first few times. They grow out of sports, and there are others who were born with the wisdom to know that nothing lasts. These are the truly tough among us, or as William James would have called them, the tough-minded. The ones who can live without illusion or without even the hope of illusion. I am not that grown up or up to date. I'm a simpler creature, tied to more primitive patterns and cycles. I need to think something lasts forever. And it might as well be that state of being that is a game. It might as well be that in a green field in the sun. And if you go to the blog post, there's a nice video here featuring a recording of the late, great Bart Giamatti reading the text of his Great essay, Green Fields of the Mind. Our biggest game, the one Bill McKibben asks about in our next environmental ethics read, Falter, has the human game begun to play itself out? Has always come with heartbreak. Lately, though, it's felt closer to a breaking point. The game's only real goal is to continue itself. My generation is already hearing the Greta generation's reprimand. You had one job. It is how you play the game. And that is, as McKibben says, the truest of cliches. A nod to Murfreesboro's own Grantland Rice. We assign great meaning to these dramas because they are our best instructors in how to play the big game the right way. Well, today in Ko-Fi, Pope, not the Pope, Alexander Pope, speaks for Leibniz or Dr. Pangloss in Candide when he says, whatever is right. But that's wrong, right? No reasonable, sane, sensitive, and caring person really believes that nothing is ever wrong. So much is wrong right now. The principle of sufficient reason is wrong if taken to imply that all's right with the world or that the one we've already got is the best we could possibly have. Divine providence is wrong if it can do no better than kill and maim innocent victims. Why, for that matter, did I have to burn myself with Java this morning? Ah, well, I should stop kvetching and follow Candide's fine advice. Cultivate your garden. Work your fields. Green fields? That means do something. Don't just sit there. Candide and his companions have traveled the world and suffered immensely. This is the description offered, the summary offered by the Book of Life. They have known persecution, shipwrecks, rapes, earthquakes, smallpox, starvation, and torture. But they have more or less survived, and in the final pages find themselves in Turkey, a country Voltaire especially admired, living in a small farm in a suburb of Istanbul. One day they learn of trouble at the Ottoman court. 2 viziers and the mufti have been strangled and several of their associates impaled. The news causes upset and fear in many, but near their farm, Candide, together with his friends Martin and Pangloss, pass an old man who is peacefully and indifferently sitting under an orange bower next to his house. He says, people who meddle with politics usually meet a miserable end. And indeed, they deserve to. I never bother with what's going on in Constantinople. Is it Istanbul or Constantinople? They might be giants, might tell us. He says, I only worry about sending the fruits of the garden which I cultivate off to be sold there. And he says more. You can read the rest of it if you click on my link. But cultivating our garden at this moment does not afford us the luxury of ignoring the doings in our nation's capital. We're going to have to mess with politics. That garden's been corrupted, and only we can fix it. But the old man's got a point. Do what you can. Don't think all's for the best. If you spill the coffee, clean it up. And we have many other possible discussion topics today as our reading ranges over deism, ID. If the human eye was so intelligently designed, by the way, why do so many of us need these? Hume on miracles and the vanishing self, the no self. Buddhists talk about that, but so do empiricist skeptics like David Hume. What else? Jean-Jacques Rousseau's Freedom and Chains. We're born free, but everywhere are in chains. And his general will, which is one of the keys to unlock the chains. Johnson and his supposed refutation of Bishop Berkeley's idealism. The Birth of a Nation, screened in Wilson's very white house. The Scopes trial. Lots of name drops we should all now recognize in how the world thinks, including Socrates and Montaigne on how to die, which is, of course, the flip side of how to live. Plato and Aristotle and Descartes on soul. And these questions. Is it wrong to adopt the religion of your community without questioning it? Can we really author our own lives? Do Americans underrate contingency and show too little humility? Is there a breakdown of equilibrium between intimacy and integrity in the West? Could we learn something in that respect from Japan? But if we have time for just one, I like this one. Do you belong in your hometown? Thomas Wolfe said you can't go home again in Look Homeward, Angel, but he was wrong, wasn't he? Of course you can go home again. After you've got an education and seen Paris, though, do you want to? But isn't home another garden that needs tending? We all need to try and be safe at home. And we'll be safe in class. I will talk to you later.